So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom and this is the T-44-100. Rather fine looking beastie. This is the new premium tier 8 Russian medium tank. Because we really don't have enough tier 8 Russian medium premium tanks. Do we? Or any Russian medium tanks for that matter. Anyway, that's what it is. Now this thing is the tank that you are able to get theoretically for free by going through the World of Tanks missions. It's a pretty tough proposition to get, but I bought it outright, mainly so I could show you guys, but also because I'm stupid and I spend money on this game, and I thought I'd bring you a quick look at it because I really like it. Hashtag surprise. Anyway, let's have a quick look at what you need to do to get this thing in game. So this is termed the Mission Marathon, and those of you who played World of Tanks for a little while will be familiar with these things. This is the same way that you could earn the WZ-111 Chinese tier 8 heavy tank. And the T-34 was another one, and there's been others along the way, variants of this, and effectively you have a month, so from the 17th of September to the 25th of October, a month to complete the parameters of the mission, and it is pretty darn tough. So to get this tank and a garage slot and a 50% crew, I believe, you need to collect 8 mission tokens. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? So each of those mission tokens is only earned by dealing at least 150,000 points of damage and killing 150 enemy vehicles. So you've got to do that for every nation in the game, all 8 of them. If you do that, you get given a little token and you get some personal reserve bonuses. So you've got to do it for the Russians, the Germans, the US, the French, the UK, China, Japan, Czechs, etc. So what if you don't have any of those nations, or there's just not a hope in hell's chance if you ever manage to grind through? Well, there is the failsafe. Of course, Wargaming, in their best, because they're such good-natured folks, and it's nothing to do with the fact they want us to spend money with them, they will allow us to purchase the tokens individually. So you can do that. So the $6.99, which is about £6, you can buy the individual mission tokens. But they're not stopped there with their magnitude, with their generosity, we'll say. You can also buy all the tokens in one bunch, which comes out at €48.85, which is around about £41, £40, something like that, if I remember rightly. This is the option I took, and that buys you all the tokens, effectively. The other option is the sort of supreme package, which is for those with real money bags, and that's just shy of €100. Gives you the tank, garage slot, 16,000 gold, a whole load of premium reserves, you get the equipment to go on the tank, and you get a whole load of repair kits, and also you get 30 times 5 XP missions. So that's what you need to do to get this thing. Now, incidentally, and I covered this in an earlier video, if you happen to do, I don't know, you manage to do all the US, the German and the Russian missions, but you don't manage to do anything else, and you buy the tank outright, you will be compensated in gold for the tokens that you have got, plus you'll get those personal reserves. Now that's why I bought it. I reckon that probably I'll manage to do about 3 of these individual missions in the month. Probably no more than that, and that's if I push it. No, if I push it, I could probably do 4, but there's no way I'm going to do 8. And so I know that now I've bought the tank outright, every token I get where I have completed that mission will get me, I think it's 1,200 gold. And actually, when you look at the exchange rate, £6 for 1,500 gold or so is actually quite reasonable, and actually you're better off doing it that way than you are buying the gold. So that's why I've done it, and also I get a chance to play with this beautiful tank for a bit more than I would otherwise do. So what do you get for all that effort or expense? You get a really well balanced, very good T-44 or Russian medium premium tank, in my view. This thing, I played a few games now, not masses, but enough to get a good feel for it, and I love it. I think it's an absolute beauty of a tank. Really impressed with it. And clearly people are playing it extremely well. I've played a few games now. I've had some really good wins, and barely got the highest I've managed to achieve in it is a 3rd class mastery. So bearing in mind there's probably not that many on the servers at the moment, and I'm only getting 3rd class when I do like 2,500 damage in it and several kills, tends to suggest that people are playing this fantastically well, and therefore it's a good tank and enjoyable to play. So let's have a look at some of the data on it. So the best thing to do is to compare it with the standard T-44. So let's have a quick look at some of the stats. So let's start with the gun. Now the gun is just open up the T-44, and you can see they're obviously sister tank, brothers and sisters. So the guns on both these tanks are identical. They both carry the 100mm LB1 gun, and that means the stats are almost identical in every sense. So 100mm caliber, well, yeah, still something we didn't know. Rate of fire is 7.41 rounds per minute, which is a pretty reasonable rate of fire for a big medium gun. 183mm of penetration on both, with standard ammo, which was buffed on the T-44 a couple of patches ago. Prior to that it was 175 as memory serves, which was a bit lackluster. So it got upgraded to 183, which is pretty adequate in its own tier. It's a very good, oops, sorry, bashed the microphone. In its own tier it's a good punchy gun. Out of its own tier, if you can get flanks and rear of even tier 10s, you can cause some mischief with that. And you know, this is a medium. They shouldn't be able to brawl face to face with tier 10s and tier 9 or even tier 8 heavies, really. They should use their mobility, of which it has plenty. It fires APCR rounds of 235mm penetration, which is, again, is identical to the standard variant, and 50 if you choose to fire HE. Average damage is 250 and 250 and 330. So again, identical. Dispersion at 100 meters, identical again, 0.35. Aim time is fractionally better on the premium at 2.2 versus 2.3. And with a good crew, you can bring, and equipment, you can bring that down to sub 2 seconds, which is pretty darn good. So the guns are as near as damn identical. What else? Well, its hull and turret armor is also identical. So on the premium you get 90mm of frontal armor, and it's well sloped. You can see that's really well sloped. A bit of angling, and you will bounce shots in this thing of reasonable caliber, not really big ones, obviously. 75mm side armor, and 45 at the rear. Now clearly the premium T-44 has these side plates or side skirts, and these count as spaced armor. It's not much, but it gives something. So particularly when you're being fired up by by heat or HE into the side, chances are it will not pen, because the spaced armor will negate the effect of those sort of shells. It also means side scraping. You get a little bit better, chance of bouncing shots. Again, only to be recommended when you're fighting similar or lower tier tanks with lesser penetration, because you are a medium tank and you really don't have any business side scraping against big heavy things. And so that hull armour minus the skirt is identical to the standard T-44. Turret wise, again, they are identical. It has 120 millimeters of turret armour on the front. It's quite well rounded. It's quite a small target, so you will bounce shots. It's quite tough to hit that. So you know, that's all good. This gun mantle is quite big and will also bounce and block shots. There's 100 millimeters of armour around the side and the rear of the turret. So this thing is not bad. It's got a good amount of armour, not masses. It's a classic medium tank. It, however, has bizarrely 50 more hit points than the standard one. Standard tank has 1,300 hit points. The premium 1,350. Don't know why that is, but that's what you get. Mobility wise, they are very much the same. However, I say they're very much the same, so there's some little nuances here. So the standard T-44, they weigh about the same. It has a bigger engine, so it has a 680 horsepower engine. However, its top speed is less. It only has a top speed 51 and 20 in reverse. Whereas the premium has a 520 horsepower engine with a top speed of 52 and 20, so an extra mile an hour, kph, sorry, on more continental. However, the big department where the premium wins out is in traverse speed. That's nearly 10 degrees per second quicker traversing the hull, which is a huge amount if you think about it. This has 61.85 degrees per second as opposed to 50 on the T-44. So yeah, and the other area which I've noticed in the games I've played so far in this premium is that it obviously has very, very good hidden stats, ground resistance stats, because I've noticed, in fact I may show a game that I played last night in this tank where my platoon buddy was in the T-44 standard and I was in this thing, and he was quicker than me along the flat, or he got away quicker. I guess that's the grunt and acceleration of the T-44. I started to catch him up slowly, but as we went up a slope I actually gained ground him quite substantially, and that was the ground resistance coming into effect. So yeah, interesting, that, very interesting. So it's got slightly better mobility, a lot better traverse capability. Concealment wise, well, it's pretty much the same. You get chance of spotting is 19.7 when you're stationary and concealed, and that drops if you're moving to 15.5. I can't read it from there. Spotting range, again, I think if I remember rightly, the T-44 is slightly weaker. 414. 430, so not much in it, and there could be just the cruise. Actually, no, they're the same cruise. So yeah, so there is slight advantage, about 10 meters extra viewing range on the premium tank than there is on the non. So yeah, the other tank to compare it with is the T-54 first prototype. This thing. Now this has pretty much the same sort of gun. In fact, it is identical. So the rate of fire is lower, however. So you've got a weaker rate of fire, you've got the same penetration and damage values, you've got a weaker dispersion and a much weaker aim time than the other premium. The other area, obviously, this is slower. It also has much thicker armour. So the frontal, this thing is more like a heavy medium. This big plate of armour on the front here will bounce shells all over the place. It is 120 millimeters as opposed to 90 on the T-44-100. So that's a considerable difference. There's also frontal turret armour on this, plus the gun mantle. It's 180 millimeters of turret armour and 120 at the size, as opposed to 120 and 100. So this thing has it on armour, as you would expect, but every other department is weaker. It has less hit points, it has worse mobility, has worse spotting, and worse concealment, I believe. Oh no, they're identical on concealment. Mobility, traverse speed are all considerably worse than the T-44-100. So, quick look at this thing. As I said I would. So, you know, this is, in my view, one of the best all-round medium tanks in the game. It doesn't matter whether it's a premium or a non-premium. This thing is really well balanced. It's very nice and nimble. It's got a good gun, and it's Russian, so it gets the Russian bias immediately. So, you know, that's good. So let's take it out and have a couple of games and show what it's capable of in the hands of a noob. So here I am on Sand River. It's a tier 8 game, which is rather nice. I'm going to try and push north. Generally the southern dunes become a bit of a brawling fest for heavies and tanks with good turret armour and good gun depression, neither of which this thing really has. Its mobility is its strength. Got a pretty reasonable gun, as I think you'll see in this game. We got a pretty good team, in fact a very good team. Well, it's a real mix. They've got as good a team as we do, really. We've got a couple of very good players in Platoon 1. Their Platoon 1 is pretty useful as well, so yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Fairly tight. So you can see the speed as we flew around there, and even coming up this really tough slope, we're still doing a reasonable amount of speed, and we beat all our compatriots up here, which is nice. And as I said in the review, in the garage, the ground resistance on this tank is actually pretty good. In fact, it's extremely good. So you can, a couple of Cromwells up there. I'm not too worried about Cromwells, but it's what they have with them. So I'm getting into a sort of hold down position here. There's one artillery, so I've got to be careful about that. Waiting for my compatriots to come up behind. I think those Cromwells are pulled back. We haven't seen anything else yet, so I'm going to push down. Oh, there's a Centurion down in the gap. Got spotted as I came round. Took a shot from the Centurion. He's obviously using, I don't know what gun he's using, but 130 damage doesn't seem much, so we can have a shootout with him. First shot, 251 onto him, which is marginally above average. Can we track him? I was trying to track him, but he just twisted at the last minute. Good play by him, and we're both trying to out DPM. Well, I can out DPM him. Bounced another one through his frontal plate. He's trying to angle. That one hit his gun mantle, which isn't so great. He's got a Centurion 1 of our side coming around the back. Bounced that one off my turret. He's getting a little bit desperate. That one went straight through his commander's hatch. Low roll though. Bounced another one from him, but he's damaged my gun, which is not ideal. It means that aiming in is a bit slower. Another one straight through his turret. Oh, get out my way, T-44. Oh, this is great. Just when you've got somebody bang to rights. And that shot flew over. Bounced another shot from him. Oh, that one didn't go through. And he's resorted to premium at me. So, okay, if you're going to play that game mushy, I will do the same to you. So I've loaded premium as well. He took out my commander that time, so he obviously hit my commander's hatch. But he paid for it. So he's down. Need to fix my commander, fixed my gun. Done 1,000 damage. I think we owned that Centurion. He had to resort to APCR against me. But we had friends, so that made it very hard for him. So there goes the Cromwells running for it. Can we get a shot on him? Oh, don't know why that shot missed. What a waste. And there's an Oni down there. Oh, he's looking at me. You're looking at me? Is he still looking at me? No, he's not. Right, we can nip round and put a shell into his side of the turret. Bang! Trying to aim for a magazine or something. And he's in a real. He doesn't know whether to shit or bust here. He's in real trouble. He's got tanks on all sides. What always happens in this scenario when you got tanks all around you just don't really know who to fire at first. So a couple of good shots into the Oni. 183mm standard round is perfectly adequate for hitting that. Oh, there's a box tank over there and an artillery. What did we hit there? We hit something. I'm sure we did. Artillery's down. Missed, nothing there. Can we hit a Cromwell over the other side? You can see the accuracy of this gun is actually very, very good for a 100mm Russian gun. Someone's already moaning about hacks, because of course you can't lose because the team's better than you. That's the law of wargaming and World of Tanks. So trying to get a shot on that Cromwell. No, he's down. So it looks like this game is done and dusted. Can we get a little bit more damage before it's all over? And again, gives you an opportunity to see the speed of this thing. And we're whizzing over the sand here, up and down dunes, still doing 50. In fact, we hit 55 there as we came down the slope. The acceleration and the mobility of this tank is absolutely fantastic. I think it is probably one of the best tier 8 mediums now in the game, irrespective of whether they're premium or not. That's my humble opinion. I like it very, very much. Now, a caveat, as always, can we get an IS-3? I think he's turned away from me, so yeah, 264 hit into the arse, which is very, very good. So yeah, I mean, you know, I know I'm a noob, but my view is that this is one of the best tier 8 medium tanks in the game, irrespective of whether they're premium or non-premium. It's a really, really well-rounded tank with good gun, very good mobility, and it generates credits for you. So let's have a look at the result though. So one of the things I've noticed is that even though there aren't many of these T-44-100s out there on the battlefield, you see one or two, but there aren't many yet, is that people are obviously really enjoying them and playing them very well, because even when you have a good game, and that wasn't sensational, but it was a good game, it's only inverted commas worth of third class mastery. And I've played quite a few games now, and the most I've ever managed to get is a third class mastery. So the fact that I can't manage a second, first, or even ace it tends to show that people are playing this brilliantly and really enjoying it as a tank. So we got 5 for effect as well. Finished up, what's that, 5th on the team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2,381 damage and 1 kill, 794 base XP, 19 shots fired, 14 hits, 10 penetrations for that 2,300 damage. So what's that, 238 average damage, which is a little on the lower side. I think it's 230, I forget now. Okay, we took 8 hits, 5 of which penetrated, 3 didn't. So we were fighting that Centurion. I think he must have been using a lower caliber gun. He certainly didn't seem to have his top gun there. And we were able to bounce shells until he changed to premium, and then not so good. 72,500 credits, which is rather nice. No costs to talk of. Still just made shy of 60,000 credits after all the costs. That was obviously a premium count. If I hadn't had a premium, still would have made 35 and nearly 35,500 credits, which is good. 1,191 experience times 2 plus 919 for being in a premium gave me just over 2,500 experience to my crew. Again, if I hadn't been running a premium, still would have been 1,667. Nice tank, and you saw the mobility, you saw the ability to get over the ground quickly, and actually surprising accuracy of this 100mm Russian gun. It's really, really accurate and got a bit of poke to it if you can get if you can hit the right kind of targets. Okay, so final game of this sequence, and as I say, this was another good one. Only registered as a third class mastery, which is about the maximum I've managed to achieve in this tank, so it shows that people do play it pretty well. This was an okay game as well. Platooned up again with Dynamics, who's in the T-44, and Shooting the Scoot, who's in the French TD, the AMX AC-48. We're going to whiz down. Oh, I'm trying to get around to the corner, and I get it was a little bit of a traffic jam. Nobody's fault. Now here's a good comparison of speed. So you can see that T-44 up ahead. He's obviously the non-premium variant of me. He's got a good lead, mainly because of that poor driving I had running around the side there. But as he hits the slope, he grinds to a halt, whereas I keep going, and I've caught him up almost. And you can see just the ground resistances of this tank are significantly better than the non-premium variant, T-44. You can see, look, I've already overtaken him, and he had a hell of a head start on me, and he was going flat out as well. So anyway, it is what it is. We're on, obviously, Himmelsdorf, I think I said. It's a tier 8 game. Me and Bonkers are heading up the hill. I think Shoot came up as well from what I remember. So one thing I like to do if I can, and it looks like there is only this oh my goodness, what are you doing, Mutz? There's only the Mutz here. Oops, I'm bad driving again, Dom. I'm just going to bully this guy because I think he's alone. He pushed around rather hard. We nearly turned him over and he's down. Good job. Oh, right behind me there's an MT-25. What are you doing there, buddy? You do not want to be there. And I went for the ram kill. I'm going for the ram kill, but are they going to let me have the ram kill? No. What it is, your platoon buddies take out your target when you're about to ram them. So, over the top, Shoot goes straight over the top and gets tracked, angled. So we have to do something to help him. There's the T-150. I'm going to try and bully him as well. Round the flank. Shell into him. Oh, and I got ammo racks by a hit from the back. FV-202. So I'm coming down to put some pressure on these heavies. They were paying attention. That's a rarity, isn't it? They were paying attention to what we were doing on the hill, and that Tiger 2 was already turning around. Now I don't want to have a shootout with the Tiger 2. I was angled enough there that I bounced the shot quite easily, but I'm baiting him a bit here and I'm going to get slapped if I'm not careful. So I decide that's enough of that game, head away. And what should you never do when you've been spotted? Head in a straight line, because that sort of thing happens. So artillery splashes me, takes out my tracks. Luckily I don't think, well I know that the Tiger 2 isn't coming down because Shoot's covering him off. Shoot's taken a hell of a lot of damage there. There's a lot of TDs down the middle, and I can't leave my platoon buddy alone. I get a shot. Tried to get a shot under the lower plate of the Tiger 2, but no joy. No joy at all. Pulling back, pulling back, pulling back. Tiger 2's got a lot of health, over 1,000 health here. And I pull back. Hopefully he doesn't see. He's only got eyes on Shoot. Shoot somehow manages to bounce the shot, and the Tiger 2 pulls back, having lost pretty much half of his available hit points there. I've still got premium loaded because that is a Tiger, Tiger 2, which is a tough proposition. And we both hit him almost simultaneously. Shoot gets the kill, but doesn't matter. We've taken him down. There's a couple of TDs down the bottom there. I'm trying to get into position to have a shootout with him, angled. I wasn't sure he would actually fire at me, and that was a bit of a misplay on my part. I shouldn't have stayed there. I should have. Oh, and he's come back out again. This time his shot dips into the dirt, and mine doesn't go anywhere either. So, not a good idea to continue to poke against TD like that, especially good TD like that. Have a shot on the Nashorn, but missed him. He's seen me, I've seen him. I'm using the wreckage of this tank to help me out. He's obviously decided he can't outload me, and he's pulled back, which is probably a good thing, but then don't pull back through an open window. Mush. So it's 13 plays 7. Don't know whether I'll get any more damage in this game, doesn't look like it, so I'm going to whiz up again into the cap, and you can see the accuracy of this gun is very good, the aim time's very good, the reload time's very good, Mobility is extremely good. Nice skidding ability in this thing, and there you go, game over, GG. So as I said at the beginning, this was a third class. We got Hand of God as well, which is rather nice. We got Fire for Effect. Finished up second on the team on base XP, 854, 2,742 damage and 1 kill. Dynamics had another good game in the T-44. He's only got the stock gun on that thing, so you know, still very, very good. 1,300 damage and 3 kills for 848 base XP. Shoot had a good one as well in that AMX. I keep saying artillery, it's not AMX TD. 1,467 damage and 1 kill for 670 base XP. I fired 17 shots, hit with 12 of them and penned with 11 for that damage that I did. I took 4 hits, 3 of which penned and 1 didn't. So you can see in all the games so far, the armour, you may bounce 1 or 2 if you're lucky, but it's all about using your, unless they're low tier tanks, it's all about using the mobility and to get yourself out of trouble, because this thing's very mobile, a very, very mobile tank. 81,500 credits gross, after costs of which there were a fair few, because I did fire premium and I did use some consumables, gave me just shy of 55,000 profit, which is still not bad at all. I mean, you're not making the sort of profits that the IS-6s or the big heavy gun tanks make. This makes pretty reasonable steady credits, however. Would have been 27,500 without a premium account. 1,281 XP plus the bonuses for being in a premium and in a platoon gave me 1,537 experience. Would have been just over the 1,000 if I hadn't had a premium account. So there you have it, the T-44-100. I think this is, as I said in one of the games, I think this is probably one of the best tier 8 medium tanks in the game. I think it's a really, really effective beastie. It is a true medium. It needs to use its mobility and good, accurate gun rather than relying on armour. You will occasionally, as you saw in those games, bounce the odd shot, but you can't rely on it. So use the mobility, use the strength the tank has in terms of getting around, getting into flanks, getting into tricky positions where you can annoy the enemy. Don't rely on armour. And if you do that, I think you can make some money out of this tank. It's not a massive money maker like the big heavy gun tanks like the new Scorpion G and the IS-6 and those sort of things, because they just have such big alpha that every time they hit, it's like a cash register going off. This thing will do reasonable amounts of credit generation, and they're also very good for a crew training training tank, because they have 4 crew members, which is pretty much what all the Russian medium tanks have once you get up to a reasonable level in them. So good for crew training, reasonable for credit generation, a damn good and fun tank to play with. Worth 40 odd quid? Probably not. I would suggest that if you can do 1 or 2 of the missions as well and get that price down to sort of, I don't know, if you can get it around to sort of £25 equivalent, then I think it's a good deal. And it's a good fun tank. So I would certainly say try and get as many of the tokens as you possibly can. Try and you know, make it a little bit cheaper to buy this tank, but if you get the opportunity, buy it, because I think it's a good vehicle if you're in the market for buying premiums, that is. Now who knows whether Wargamer offer it separately. They did with the WZ. Sometime later, about a year later, it was available in one of the Christmas bundles, if I remember rightly, so you could buy it, and I think they've sold it at least once subsequently as well. So you know, it's not going to be, I would suggest it's not going to be ultra exclusive as a vehicle, but there won't be masses of them on the battlefield, that's for sure. So if you like your armour medium and you like it Russian in nature, then it could be the T-44-100 is for you. Anyway, hope you found this useful. If you did and you enjoyed this video, please tick like down below, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel really helps and makes me feel good about doing these things. So thanks for watching. Enjoy your games, have fun. Remember, it is just a game, and I'll see you again soon. Gamerdom out.